Hi, I'm Jeff Ziegler, and I call this video Not on Your Watch. Safeguarding your family can't wait. It really can't. You'll understand why I totally hook, line, and sinker believe that when you watch my story. So, I remember waking up, and I sat up in bed this particular morning and had this really sharp pain that I'd been experiencing across my stomach area. And this had been going on for a few months, probably even a year. I was eating Prilosec mixed with handfuls of Tums like they were candy. And my wife, Tina, she was pleading with me for months to go get this checked out, but I did what most guys do, and I, just blew it off. But this day, it was actually really different. The pain that I was experiencing was sharp. I mean, it was really intense, and there was just no way that I could ignore it. So I woke my wife, Tina, up, and I told her that today was a day I need you to make me an appointment. I need to go in, I need to find out what's going on. Why am I having this pain? And I remember to drive into work, and I was kind of numb because deep down, I really had known for a while that something wasn't right. And the time had finally come where, I was having to face what I was feeling. So the next morning I went into the doctor, and they looked me over and thought, based upon what I was telling them, that this might be something inside my gallbladder, and said that I needed to adjust my schedule that morning and go get an ultrasound immediately, because this could be something that would be really serious. So I did as they suggested. I changed my schedule and told everybody in the office that I'd be in sometime after lunch. And when I finally got to the room and the technician told me what they're about to do, I basically said, hey, look, can you just do me a favor? I know you're supposed to, just ultrasound wherever my gallbladder is, but is there any way that you can just do my whole midsection? Because if you don't see anything, honestly, I'm not going to come back. I've got way too much going on, and I just want to rule everything out. And I'm happy to pay whatever the additional amount is. So she agreed to that, and a few minutes later, she came back in and she said, hey, we've got approval. We're good to go. So, the funny thing is, as I look back on this now, is I almost didn't ask. But I had this overwhelming feeling that I needed to. And I can't really explain why I had that feeling. I just knew I needed to. And I wasn't out of this place for more than 30 minutes when my phone received, and I got this urgent call from the doctor with the news of what they had found. And it turns out that my gallbladder was fine. But what they found was a 5-centimeter growth on my right kidney that they believed was cancer. I can't remember the name. It's one of them long, funny names you hear from a doctor. But that was March 26, 2015, and my life from that point forward would never be the same. He started going down this long list of things that I needed to do right away, and I couldn't even really focus on what he was saying because I didn't even have a category in my brain for what he was telling me. Surely, I kept thinking he must be talking about someone else. So for the most part, except for the last couple of years, as I was just replaying this in my mind, I ate really well, I exercised. I should be fine. And then all I could think about was my family. And I just sat there in silence. A little bit of time passed, and he finally said, hey, are you there? Do you understand what you've got to do next? And I said, yeah, I understand. I need to go in and get a CAT scan that you've already scheduled for me. The next call I made was obviously to my wife, Tina, and I'll never forget the tone of her voice. I'd never heard that from her before, and we kind of just sat there in silence and disbelief. When the scan was over, they didn't actually let me leave. They kept me in this little tiny room with this desk and had a few magazines scattered around on top of there, and there was just a phone right in the middle of the desk. I'll never forget it. And the doctor wanted me to stay so that the radiologist could look everything over, and then he'd call me with the findings. So I can honestly say that that was probably the longest 15 minutes of my life. When the phone finally rang, it was the doctor, and with absolutely no emotion, he said, "Jeff, you've got cancer. And the type that you have spreads to the lungs first, so we need to get you a chest x-ray before you leave." It was the weirdest conversation I'd ever had because it was just so matter of fact. In just one day, my whole life was turned upside down, and I had no idea how to handle this flood of emotions that I was beginning to experience. And to be honest with you, it was kind of terrifying. This doctor had absolutely zero emotion. His attitude was just like another day at the office, and something that, that he obviously dealt with all the time, but for me it was brand new. Now the good news is the cancer didn't spread to my lungs. My kidney doctor told me that based upon the size, it had probably been growing for 3 to 5 years. I mean, think about that for a second. It was isolated in that one spot. I was extremely lucky. This was referred to as an incidental find, but my wife and I believe that God had prompted me to ask to get the ultrasound to, get my entire midsection done. And if I hadn't, maybe I wouldn't be doing this video right now. So now that you know my story, let me tell you why I joined forces with my wife Tina to become a life insurance planner, and why we sought out the #1 expert in the country and joined forces with him. His name's Scott Karstens. You're going to get to know him really well. Now, when I was a young dad, I heard a financial entertainer that spoke at our church. You may have seen him before because he's kind of got a haircut similar to mine. And he said with a lot of enthusiasm and conviction, do not buy permanent life insurance. You should only buy term and invest the difference. And without any further due diligence, I blindly followed his advice and the herd and did what everybody else was doing. Sounded like a really smart thing to do, but it turned out it was based upon assumptions and his opinion. I got a whole video about that. And I can honestly say that was the worst financial advice I've ever gotten. And if I could go back in time, spin back the clock, this is what I'd say to myself. You know what, Jeff? I don't care what Dave Ramsey says. Buy permanent cash value life insurance, because guess what? At age 50, you're going to get cancer. You won't be able to qualify again, and you're going to still have kids at home. And oh, by the way, you're going to need that cash that you've saved inside the policy because you're going to have an unexpected life event that's going to happen just 1 year later, and it's going to completely rock your world, and things will never be the same. Unfortunately, I can't go back in time, but that's exactly what I'd say to myself. You see, the policy that I purchased when I heard him speak expired in August of 2020. Now my family's at risk. I'm uninsurable, and it's so much more expensive, even if I could buy insurance at 55 than it was when I was 30. I since learned that the wealthy people, they don't take risk, they transfer risk. And you should too, and here's why, and learn why. Now, I've also learned that life doesn't always end up like a fairy tale, like Cinderella. Sometimes good people get sick, and sometimes they die. And you need to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And that's why we've created helpful life insurance tips so that you can get educated and make a wise decision based upon the outcome that you want, not the opinion of me or anyone else. So I suggest that you take time, seek to understand. Watch all the videos on our YouTube channel. It'll be the best financial decision you ever make. So mainly because you'll just have peace of mind. And if you haven't done so already, take our 60-second quiz that we created with Scott based upon his 20 years of experience and get an understanding of what life insurance plan's right for you and what type of a provider and protector you are. Okay, it's taken a great deal of time to compile all of this information. I think it's great because you'll know more than 90% of the agents that you actually talk to. And if you ever need help, just reach out to Tina and I. We'd be honored to serve you and your family.